good Sunday morning to each and every one of you, my father's children. You're tuned into Sunday Morning Praise with your favorite church girl, the one, the only Kayla J, right here on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. And you guys, we took a little break because your girl was going through some things and we ain't have time to do it like we should have. But our series is back: Marriage, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I am so excited to introduce y'all to this next young couple. If you've been tuning in, you know how we do it. We're going to get down to the nitty and the gritty. So please help me welcome none other than Jared and Cecil Davenport. Good morning. Good morning. How are y'all today?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Feeling great. Feeling great.
I'm well. Thanks for having us. Appreciate you.
I am so excited to have y'all on here for this particular series. So I'm going to get right into it because 20 minutes is not a lot of time. So share your love story with us. How did you meet and all that wonderful good stuff?
Sure. We met back in November of 2018, and we actually met unconventionally. We met on a dating app called Hinge. I had joined the app about 2 or 3 days prior to matching with him. And I was kind of new to the whole online dating situation, so it was kind of weird, but I'm glad I took that leap and found him on there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, we met on Hinge, went out, got some tacos, hit up Dave and Buster's, to some typical stuff. Went out, and we was in Pittsburgh, so this wasn't in Philly, so both away from home type deal. Yeah, it was just slowly but surely started to grow. I ended up moving back to Philly, did the long distance thing for a decent amount of time, then decided to, stop playing games and go ahead, tie the knot.
So want to just go back to you really fast, Cecile. You said you joined Hinge 2 days prior to meeting Jared.
That is correct.
Did you, excuse me, in your wildest imagination, ever think that you would meet someone that fast? Because I know a lot of people do this online dating thing, and they be on there for months, years, and still no match. And here you go, just popping up 2 days later and found your husband.
Looking back, I definitely feel as though it was all God. Because prior to getting on the app, I had gone about 8 months without dating anybody intentionally. My last situation ended pretty poorly. And so I had gone 8 months saying, I don't want to date. I need to heal. I need to just get myself together, my mind together. And I need to really think about what I'm looking for when it comes to a partner. And so 8 months went by. And eventually, after discussing with some friends, I kind of felt ready to get back into the scene. And a friend of mine told me about the app. And so when I joined the app, the intention was not marriage. It was just to get myself back in after being out of the game for 8 months. And so never in my wildest dreams did I think I would find my husband. When I first found Jared on there, and other guys, I matched with some other guys there initially. One thing about online dating is that people tend to put up facades and lie and tend to pretend to be folks they aren't. But there was something about Jared that felt very genuine and very honest. And so I just took note of that. But still, I never imagined we'll be here at this point. I just took things very slowly. We got to know each other slowly but surely. I was dating him casually. And then eventually a time came when I realized that he was the real deal.
Hey, real deal Holyfield.
What?
You can't do that on here, all right?
That's what it's saying.
Okay.
Hey, you threw me off. So that's just the thing. Sorry. Full disclosure, y'all. I wasn't going to disclose, but this is my brother and my sister, so I'm sorry. There might be some inside jokes. But so most people, like I said, they date online for forever, and here y'all go, meeting online and realizing that you have found your person. So I'm going to ask Jared first. When did you know that she was the one, and you was going to pop that question?
Oh, when did I know? I would say it was definitely I'll say a few years into it, I had already moved back to Philly, so it was definitely during the long distance time where I was just like, I know that this is what I want, so this is what I want. I don't need to pretend like I'm searching around looking for something else and really just wasting time. So I was just like, this is it. I'm going to move forward with this, and I just kind of did that. Yeah.
And Cecile, how about you? When did you know you wanted to spend the rest of your life with Jared?
For me, it was honestly around the pandemic. When Jared and I met, I was in my financial freedom era. So I was working, honestly, I was working a lot, trying to pay off my vehicle, trying to pay off my student loans. And I was just in that era, working a lot. And part of working a lot, you get distracted and you don't really get a chance to sit back and reflect on your present and your current life. And so when March 2020 hit and the world began to shut down, I suddenly found myself having a lot more extra time on my hands. The world had stopped, the distractions had stopped, and I was in a place where I was really able to sit back and reflect on my life, on my present. Things were so unsure. We didn't know if we're going to survive the pandemic. So it just had me in a really somber mental space. And as I was reflecting on different things in my life, my professional life, my spiritual life, and also my dating life, I got to really look at him in a different light. I was able to realize in that moment that that he was one of a kind. I was able to realize that he had all the qualities that I had honestly been praying about, things that I didn't really notice because I was so caught up in my day-to-day with work and whatnot. But when I really thought about him as a person and thought about our relationship and thought about all of what he had meant to me and been for me since I had met him, November of 2018, I realized that he was just someone of integrity, someone of love, someone of wisdom, someone that was literally just one of one. And I felt as though if I don't take this seriously, I might miss on a blessing. And so from there, he'll probably remember this. I began to date him very, very intentionally. And him and I began to have some really tough conversations about, finances, family, in-laws, our dreams, our goals, our fears, our triggers, and just all these different things that couples that want to be together should, all these conflicts that they should have. And it was a pretty vulnerable time and a pretty hard time, but it was very well worth it because I just appreciated the way that the conversations went, and all of what we discussed ultimately let me know that this was someone that I was compatible with and someone that I could see myself spending the rest of my life with.
Such sweet words. Oh my God. Tissues, please. But that's really amazing. You spoke to intentionality there. And I feel that sometimes couples don't really have those intentional conversations. Sometimes people go in things off of feelings, and feelings are nice. But when you go in having intentional conversations, I feel like you know what you're getting yourself into, especially when we're talking about marriage. It's a bond, it's a covenant, it's a contract. There's a lot of things that go into being married. And I really like that you said you all had intentional conversations, which leads me to my next question of what was the hardest thing about courting and dating for you guys? I know at one point y'all were together in the same city, and then y'all did the long distance thing. So was the long distance the hardest, or was there something else? Like what was the struggle point for both of you?
I would say, I feel like this at times is still the struggle point. It's just time. We both live busy lives. When I was in Pittsburgh, I worked kind of crazy hours. I was also in a band. She was working crazy hours. So we kind of got in when we could. And of course, that's just being intentional again. But yeah, I would say just time. Because even when we were separated, it was still okay. Well, when can we get together? When can we figure this out? Scheduling calls or trying to make sure we have time to talk. Try not to lose track of each other. So just I would say time.
So how did y'all overcome that?
I think just being intentional about it. Making. Let's see, what they say, keeping the real thing. Understanding. Okay, well, if this is what we want to do, then you make time for it. You make time for things that you want to. And I think that was just the mindset. Then, okay, well, if we want to do this, we'll make time for it.
Agreed. And I have to echo what he said, because, our schedules were quite busy at that time, but we also knew that we were potentially making the biggest decision of our lifetime. And so that required us to set aside the right amount of time to have those conversations. For me, the hardest thing in our courting was those conversations, because for me, it required a level of vulnerability that I did not quite anticipate. Some really tough conversations were had, things that that at some point I had anticipated just taking to the grave with me. I had to disclose to him and discuss with him because I wanted him to be able to make an educated decision whenever he chose to ask me to marry him. And I wanted the same for him. I wanted to know that when I say yes, I know what I'm saying yes to. So I needed to see and know the good, the bad, the ugly, and I wanted to show that to him as well. And that was very vulnerable and very tough. But again, thanks to his wisdom and integrity and tolerance and patience and maturity, the conversations were handled very well. I felt safe throughout the conversations, and it was all worth it.
Definitely all worth it. Love it. Y'all are giving good nuggets. I hope you all are listening with a pen or pencil close by, because they are definitely giving nuggets to y'all.
Our alarm just started beeping, so I'm gonna mute that real quick.
Please forgive us.
It is all right. Live radio, y'all. It happens. But they're definitely giving nuggets. And just if you're tuning in again, you're listening to Word Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM. I'm Kayla J. This is Sunday Morning Praise, and we're discussing, we're in the series, The Marriage, the Good, and the Ugly, in discussion with the Davenports, Jared and Cecile. Cecile, y'all can clearly hear it. Okay. You have a lovely accent. I love accents, though. But I want to ask you, with being from Cameroon, and Jared being American, how did those cultures come together? How did y'all introduce each other? I mean, clearly you were living in Pittsburgh, so you had already familiarized yourself with a bit of American culture. But in the intentional part of your dating, how were y'all intentional of making sure you respected each other's cultures?
So respecting and getting to know his culture wasn't difficult for me. I moved into this country when I was 16, and I am now 32. So all of my adult life was spent in this country. And so by the time I met him, I knew quite a lot about African American culture. So it really wasn't difficult. I know the music, I know the history. I had gone to college here. In college, I've taken some African studies classes. And so I was familiar with African American history. So for me, it wasn't very difficult. I think that my culture was foreign to him. And so there were several ways that I shared my culture with him. I recall one of the first things I ever cooked for him was a dish called pepper soup, and I'd made it with fish. And I mean, no shade, but what you Americans call spicy, we Africans, we think it's a joke. And so when I make,
that
is definitely a fact.
So when I make for him a dish called pepper soup, the main ingredient there is pepper. And so I was a little bit concerned about how he was gonna, handle it. Would it be too much or whatnot? But he really impressed me. He was able to hang. So he ate the soup, he liked it, and from there I made more and more food for him that is Cameroonian. I also shared my music with him, and probably the biggest way that we shared cultures was us having a traditional wedding in Cameroon. So he actually was able to come down to Cameroon with me. We were down there for about a week, and he really got to get a taste of my childhood. We stayed in my childhood home in Cameroon. He got to see really where I grew up. He ate a ton of African food. I recall at our wedding, we had this incredible spread of food, all kinds of meats, goats, porcupine, crocodile, all kinds of stuff. And Jared embraced it all with open arms. All the music was in my native tongue. The rhythms and the dances were all traditional, and of course it was all new to him, but that didn't deter him at all. He jumped in head first and just embraced the whole experience, and I was happy about it. My family was excited, and they felt so grateful that he was just willing to be so open and receptive of everything.
Oh yeah, no, I would, agree with all that. I would say me in particular, I've always been interested in, I'll say, my roots as an African American, the African part. So there's a part of me that's, I've always wanted to go to Africa. I've always wanted to visit different countries. But for my first trip to Africa to be for my wedding, that it was an experience it was just completely breathtaking. I would say because I've always loved the culture, it was easy to throw myself into it. Now there's a huge language barrier because I don't speak French, so that. But even in that, they say 80% of communication is nonverbal body language and things like that. You really can get by with that. You learn a couple phrases here and there. And it's as long as it's all love, I think it all works out. It wasn't hard to, like she said, dive head first right into it, because it was such a openly loving environment.
Well, that's good, and I'm happy that you ended with saying environment, because a lot of times when we see blended families, and by blended families I mean blending cultures, it is the families where it's hard. So was it hard to blend the families for like special occasions? I remember your wedding that you had here in America. It was beautiful, right? You had the traditional ceremony, but I remember the reception. There was, a time of where I think we did something that was more traditional for Cecile versus what we do here. And that was beautiful. But beyond the big wedding parties, was it difficult for both sides of your families to blend?
No, I don't think so, because we're both blessed with amazing families, but I would say they both move with their love for us, if that makes sense. So, okay, my family is completely welcoming to Cecile because they want what's best for me, and vice versa for her. And I think with that, everyone kind of entered the situation, or entered all of these situations like, okay, well, how can we be helpful? Mm-hmm. And what can I do to best participate in this? And how can I best navigate? And what will be the best way to do this? And how could love be receptive on the other side? And that was really the intention, I guess, at least I could say for my family. I felt it from yours, so I could say it for hers as well. And I think that was just the mindset of the group.
I agree. And to add to that, I think that both of our families were very much excited that him and I found each other. I know my family had been hoping, praying, wishing for me to one day get married and give them grandkids. And so when I eventually let them know that, I had found this lovely guy that I liked, they were super excited to meet him and welcome and embrace him. And I felt that same energy on his side. I never, ever felt as though I had to prove myself or earn your approval or anything. From the second I met every single one, his mom, his dad, stepmom, brothers, cousins, everyone, you as well. Every single person welcomed me. And so the blending of the families wasn't at all difficult because it was all led in love.
That's wonderful to hear. That's wonderful to hear. And I can see that because you all have such a bright love and love jokes. So that's amazing. Coming down to the close of this, just want to ask you a few more questions. Then we're gonna have a short little game of bring my game back for the couples. You all have a lovely baby girl now, Sarah, and I want to know what's your plans for making sure she is raised with a respect and a love of both cultures, because a lot of times when we see blended families, especially blended cultural families, somebody gets thrown to the wayside. You know, they're either all in on one side and neglect the other, or they just let the kid grow and choose what they want to do. So what's your plan? Because I know that you both love your families and respect what you all do.
Yeah, I'll finish up. You got it.
Alrighty. So the plan is to take every opportunity for her to be around. So it's because of where we live, we're very close to Jared's family. My family is a little bit more far away. My immediate family, my mom and dad, are in Cameroon, which is hundreds of miles away from here. My sister is in Texas. But outside of that, I have quite a bit of family in the East Coast. I have lots of cousins, aunts, uncles in New York, Maryland, Virginia. And so my plan is to make sure that she's involved in every single thing that my family has going on. For example, this past Thanksgiving, my family got together in New York to celebrate, and there were about 40 of us there, of my cousins and uncles and aunties. And so I took Sarah there. She got to meet that whole side of the family, and it was a lovely time. Mm-hmm. Also at home, part of my culture is not only speaking my native tongue, but also speaking French. And so I tend to speak French to Sarah sometimes. She's not really catching on yet, but eventually she will, as she grows and develops. Food-wise, I really haven't done a good job at cooking. Actually, I have. I think she's had
fish.
Yeah, she's had fish too. So yeah,
she's had food.
Correct. So yeah, food also. African food is something that I want her to grow up eating as well. So those are the ways that I plan to share my culture with her as she develops.
Her spice level will be higher than Daddy's.
No, now my spice level's up there.
Listen,
because look, when I was in Africa, they was trying. Oh no, hold on, right. That's spicy. Correct. Now I'm just dipping. I think that was another way that I felt like I was accepted. They saw me eating spicy food.
Yeah, they were concerned when they saw him grab the spice, but he proved them wrong. He said, "No, I got this," and he did, and they were taken aback, and I was very proud.
I had to represent.
Yeah,
good job, bro. Good job.
I think that's it.
But yeah,
I would say just to go along with that, food, keeping her with family. Everyone, Cecil's side of the family, they're Christians as well. So, faith is also a thing. So, keeping God first as well. Faith is important to both sides of the family. We are all praying. We are all coming together in this way. That's another way, just to make it easy for her to go back and forth between the two.
And also plan trips, so we are, life is kind of busy right now, but we're all planning a trip to Cameroon in the near future. So she will get to go to Cameroon with us and experience that.
Well, that's amazing. And I know she's going to enjoy that. And the time that you'll spend there as a family, the memories will be cherished forever. I'm sure of it. Last question for you guys. What advice? Y'all been dropping advice and nuggets the whole time, but what advice would you give to a couple, an engaged couple or a newly married couple that are trying to blend cultures, whether it's African and African-American or African-American and Canadian, just blending cultures in general?
I would say, and we kind of talked about, I would say, be intentional, embrace the red. Is a saying. So, you want to have the hard conversations or just the conversations. Just one off the top of my head that I can think of when we were We were planning the wedding in Cameroon, and people who know me would notice about it. I'm not a big out there person. And she was telling me the guest count was going to be like 500 people. And exactly. Exactly. And I was just like, yeah, nah. And this is peak COVID. like, yeah, no, we can't do 500 people. And she was like, well, it's kind of just how it is. People just go be showing up, and it's not even about being invited. And I'm just like, yeah, well, it can't be 500 people. Like, really just having these conversations. And, because it's not even okay, I'm right, you're wrong. But okay, we're both in this experience. We both decide to go forward. Here's something that's blocking the way. How can we address this? And I think we ended up with like 350, maybe 400 people.
It ended up being around 300. And with that situation, I think you said earlier, you talked about keeping the main thing. And the main thing was making sure that the people who are getting married are comfortable. And so despite the fact that my family had certain expectations and wishes and desires, I kind of had to be that middle person to help explain that, hey, here's where my husband's coming from. Can you understand? How can we address his concerns? And ultimately, everyone was receptive and willing to make sure that he was comfortable. The advice that I will give to anyone trying to blend families is to blend cultures. Is that it is your responsibility to facilitate the learning of to teach your partner your culture. And you can teach what you don't know. And you also can't be afraid to admit that you don't know certain things. I know for me, around a traditional wedding, there were certain things that I was not familiar with in terms of how traditional marriages happen in Cameroon. Again, I moved here when I was 16 years old. So there were things that I wasn't familiar with. I didn't know that when we were to have the ceremony, we would be slapping a goat. That came to my surprise.
Yeah.
It's just traditional theatrics. But I had to have a talk with my mom and my dad just to understand where that's from and understand why we do that, so that I could properly relate that to Jared. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to admit when you don't know something. Don't be scared to learn. And when you learn, you can then be a better teacher to your spouse about your culture.
Ooh, the Davenports, y'all. Listen, when I booked this interview, I knew it was gonna be great, but I didn't know it was gonna be this great. Y'all are dropping them for the people today. All right. And I just want to make sure that you all get a chance to say, because I don't think we said it. Tell the folks how long you've been married.
We got married August 2021.
21.
This is year 4.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is year 4.
Wow. Amazing. All right. We're going to play a quick game, and then we're going to get out of here. And y'all just have to react immediately, okay?
Okay.
Who's the best cook?
Me. All right. Okay.
Who's the better driver?
Jared.
Who spends more time with Sarah?
Cecil.
I think it's half and half.
Yeah.
Sure.
Who said I love you first?
Who what?
Who said I love you first?
Jared.
Who's the better dancer?
Definitely Cecile.
Who's better with communication?
Cecile.
It depends on how you want it. I'll give it to Cecile. I'll give it to her. Yeah, she'll initiate more conversation.
Who goes to sleep first?
Me.
Who shops the most?
Me.
Jared.
Me.
Yeah, Jared.
Who talks the most?
Me.
So, yeah.
Also, that's it. Very, very simple, fun game. Thank you all so much for joining me here today on Sunday Morning Praise. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. It's been
Honestly,
great.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. All right, folks, that does it for this installation of Marriage, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, featuring the Davenports. You're listening to Sunday Morning Praise right here on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, with your favorite church girl, the one, the only, Kayla J. We're going to a quick commercial break, but when we come back, it's time for prayer and some more